Hey, it's Dave Brown here, host of Now with Dave Brown on AMI. Check out this latest highlight from the show. Last week, NASA released stunning new images of cosmic events using the world's largest and most powerful space telescope. The images could not have come together without the contributions of Canadian astronomers, astrophysicists, and scientists. Joining us now to explore the significance of these photos is astrophysicist Dr. Nathalie Ouellette, the Canadian outreach scientist for the James Webb Space Telescope. And Dr. Ouellette joins us from Montreal. Dr. Ouellette, thank you for making time for us today. We're grateful.
Thank you for the invitation.
So first and foremost, congratulations on this achievement. How has this week been for you and the team now that the photos are out for the world to see?
It's been a real whirlwind. I sort of liken it to people love Mars missions, Mars rovers. We launched the rover or the telescope back in December, but we've just landed, essentially. We've landed on Mars, we've taken our first images, and the response from the entire world has been really fantastic.
Yeah, to say the world has been buzzing would be an understatement. YouTube has been filled with awesome videos, awesome analysis, which has been fascinating to take in. Before we get into some of the technology that made this possible, one of the things that I really wanted to do for our audience as we try to cater to the blind and low vision people across the country and around the world, and I'm legally blind myself, and I just cannot wrap my head around what I'm looking at in some of these pictures. So we're hoping to borrow your expertise here with a couple of images, beginning with the Karina Nebula. What is happening here?
Yes, so the Karina Nebula is what we call a star-forming region. So stars are born, they live a certain amount of time, and then they die. So this is the beginning of a star's life, and not just one star, many stars. So in the upper half of the picture, you see this sort of dark blue sky littered with jeweled stars all over. And a lot of these are newborn stars, and they are pushing against the lower half, which is this sort of landscape of orange and brown dust. And within that dust, you have new stars that are also being formed. And you can see them as bright, sort of redder, orangey spots throughout that orange dust. And you can see lots and lots of texture because the dust has different depths within this landscape. We call it the cosmic cliff. So very textured, you can see sort of fluffs all over the place and lots of stars littered all over the image.
Thank you so much for doing that. That's what I think one of the most striking images in the way that it looks. I love that you refer to it as cliffs because it does look like a mountain range, an orange mountain range on a blue background. The second image that we're about to put up on screen is called Stephen's Quintet. What is occurring in this picture?
Yes, so this is an image of 5 galaxies, 4 of which are interacting. So a galaxy is a very large object which contains hundreds of billions of stars and lots of gas and dust. And they often live in groups. So in the foreground of the image, you have 5 bright galaxies, and 2 of them are actually so close together, their hearts are merging at the moment. They're the centermost galaxies. One of them is just from a projection effect. It seems like it's part of the group, but it's actually quite a bit closer to us. And within these galaxies, you have these swirling patterns that are a more orangey color. And you can see that as the sort of gas skeleton within the galaxy. And that is where new stars are being formed as the galaxies are pushing together. They're pushing the gas together. And behind these foreground galaxies, you have littered in the background lots and lots of background galaxies that are much, much farther away. But because this telescope is so sensitive, it can pick up those faraway galaxies as well.
And the third photo that we have here is called the Exoplanet Atmosphere. What is this image captured?
Yeah, so this image is a little bit more complex because it's not quite an image, it's what we call a spectrum. So it requires explanation for everyone, essentially. So exoplanets are distant worlds that orbit stars other than our sun, and we're very interested in studying what their atmospheres may contain, if they're habitable, if they might be even full of life. So what we have here is a graph that shows how much light is being blocked by certain types of molecules in that exoplanet's atmosphere. And so you have a line, all these white dots, and you show bumps and wiggles here. That's the amount of light that's blocked. And those bumps and wiggles translate to a signature that corresponds to certain molecules. And in this case, this is a sort of Jupiter-like planet that's very, very hot, 500 degrees Celsius, because it's so close to its star. But we've detected water vapor through these bumps and wiggles on this atmosphere spectrum.
A lot of lay people like myself have been absolutely captivated by these images since they released, but you and your colleagues are experts in the field. Walk me through the moment when you first saw these images.
So I actually had the great pleasure of seeing the images a little bit before everyone else because I was part of the NASA broadcast who revealed them. The exoplanet spectrum was actually the first image taken by the Canadian instrument aboard. And I knew that they were going to be stunning because over the last 6 months, we've been putting the telescope, getting it ready for science and operations, and everything has been going better than planned. But I was still really hit emotionally when I saw the images finally. And not only the images, but when we saw the quality of the data as well, we knew that the telescope was really working as well as we thought, even better than we had expected.
There was a lot of collaboration here to accomplish this between NASA, the European, the Canadian space agencies. Walk me through what that process was like and how important collaboration was to bring this James Webb Telescope together.
Absolutely. So for those who have followed the mission, you might have heard numbers like 10,000 people, 20,000 people. So many people have worked on this. It's hard to keep track, really. And I'm still relatively young in my career. So I've had the benefit of all of these people hard work for decades, really. And it's a fantastic example of collaboration across international borders. So we have Europe, we have Canada, we have the United States with NASA, and we are all bringing little components to the mission together, but we are all working really together fantastically as a team for the benefit of the entire world, because we want all the astronomers and all the public all over the globe to enjoy these data and enjoy these images.
And part of this is about the work that individuals were doing to put these pieces together. And Canada played a massive, massive part in that, especially with a couple of instruments, the fine guidance sensor and the near infrared imager and slitless spectrograph. Sorry, I may have messed that one up a little bit.
No, perfect.
But tell me a little bit about how those pieces are key to the integration and utility of the James Webb Space Telescope.
Yeah, so the Canadian contribution was coordinated by the Canadian Space Agency with different partners like the University of Montreal, where I work. And the fine guidance sensor is not a scientific instrument, but it's mission critical. It's sort of like the eye of the telescope, which allows it to point towards its targets and lock onto them. So even though it's not a scientific instrument, every image that we take with Webb is actually enabled by this guiding camera that locks onto the target. The nearest instrument is the scientific instrument that Canada provided, and it is a specialist to study very, very varied objects, but most especially very distant galaxies created just shortly after the Big Bang, and the exoplanet atmospheres that I mentioned, to try to figure out what is contained within their atmospheres.
I know this last question is quite big and broad, so feel free to take some time with it if you like. But I know even since these first images were released, we've seen some new images of the moons of Jupiter, which were absolutely stunning. What is the potential here? What are scientists most excited about now that they have this resource at their fingertips?
So we have planned out 4 main scientific goals for this telescope. The first being alien worlds. So yes, exoplanets, as I mentioned, but also worlds inside our own solar system, like Jupiter, Saturn, their moons as well. We also wanted to study the life of stars. And in some of the images we released, we had the birth of stars, the death of stars. We also have black holes. We want to study galaxies, how they evolve over time. And we want to look as far back as possible in the universe. And we've already potentially done that. Just this week, it was announced that we may have discovered within the Webb images the oldest galaxy ever discovered yet to be confirmed, absolutely. But one of the things that's fantastic about this telescope is it will answer questions we haven't even thought of asking yet. That's one of the wonderful things about discovery. Sometimes you stumble on some of the most amazing things you didn't expect.
Dr. Ouellette, these are really exciting times. This project is remarkable. Congratulations to you and your colleagues. Please keep up all the excellent work, and hopefully we get a chance to connect with you again down the road.
Great. Thanks so much.
That's Dr. Nathalie Ouellette, astrophysicist and the Canadian outreach scientist for the James Webb Space Telescope. And more images are going to be captured from that telescope. They're going to be available on NASA's Flickr page, along with detailed image descriptions. And we'll make sure to give you a link to that page if you visit our blog after the show, AMI.ca/nowblog, AMI.ca/nowblog. Do you want to dive into more conversations like this? Watch Now with Dave Brown weekdays at 9 a.m. Eastern on AMI.TV or download the podcasts wherever you listen. Do you want to dive into more conversations like this? Watch Now with Dave Brown weekdays at 9 a.m. Eastern on AMI.TV or download the podcasts wherever you listen.